I made rather a tasteless joke online this week, I'm afraid. I'm deeply ashamed of it, but it was one of those remarks that I thought was quite amusing. Although tasteless, we're talking about the retaliation of Iran against Israel, who they believe bombed one of their embassies or consulates in Syria. I think it was Damascus, wasn't it? And what they were going to do in retaliation. And I suggested in my online waffle that Iran should actually bomb the Israeli embassy in Gaza. Now, I thought that was quite funny. Most people didn't. In the last episode of A Victim Bites Back, I covered some of the more recent tracks and successes I'd had with Sons of Admirals and Alex Day and others. I point out those were not professional involvements, they were just as friends. Never made a penny from any of it, but they were quite big successes. And I pointed out then that what really hit me watching the videos they made and hearing the tracks they made was the enormous fun they had making them. Now, these were kids in their late teens, early 20s, and I had that when I was that age. I'm lucky because I still do. At 79, I still have the enthusiasm for having fun. And believe me, I do have fun, even if it involves things like sorting out the criminal justice system. So I think that's a crucial thing to remember. And that's what's gone missing in the music industry and in many other aspects of life. People no longer have fun doing it. Whereas that, to me, was not the main reason, but the secondary reason for being in the music industry. The main reason was making, finding, or breaking great music and great musical talent. And that was wide-ranging. It didn't have to be bands like Genesis and 10cc. It didn't have to be shows like the Rocky Horror Show. It could be boy bands like the Bay City Rollers were, and it could be novelty records, and I had quite a few of those. The last big hits I had when I was professionally in the music industry were Who Let the Dogs Out and I Get Knocked Down But I Get Up Again, which most people would describe as novelty hits, both of which sold about 16 million copies of vinyl singles at the end of the last century. And it's not just the music industry that I have fun in, it's also exposing things like the false allegations industry. And it was quite interesting to notice that slowly but surely the major newspapers, especially I have to say the Mail, are beginning to pick up on the fact that many false accusers, if not all of them, either exaggerate or make something up completely in order to get an enormous amount of money. Having fun in the music industry and in life is not just making records that you love making and novelty records. They're fun, but also the whole process of trying to get things to work. I've had, unfortunately, many more failures in my professional life and probably in my personal life than I've had successes. I love the successes, I'm grateful for the successes, and I'm happy with the successes. But most of all, I feel sad about the failures, and I want to play you a couple of the failures during this show, which I think should have been huge hit and launched huge careers. One of my favourite artists back in the early 70s was a girl called Tina Harvey. Very unusual looking, unusual character, but with the most incredible ability to interpret a song in her own way, with a very strange vocal sound, quite similar to the very odd Bob Dylan vocal sound. Tina Harvey, I think she should have been a huge star, loved her dearly, made some wonderful records with her, one of which got enormous attention on the Northern Soul dance scene. You remember they had discos up in various places up north in Great Britain, and a lot of tracks there that were never huge hits nationally or internationally were huge hits on the local dance scene, and this was one of them, a track called Nowhere to Run.
Nowhere to run to, baby, nowhere to hide. Got nowhere to run to, baby, nowhere to hide. It's not love I'm running from, just the heartbreak I know will come. 'Cause I know you're not good for me, but you become a part of me. Everywhere I go, your face I see. Every step I take, you take with me. Nowhere to run to, baby, nowhere to hide. Got nowhere to run to, baby, nowhere to hide. I know you're not good for me, but free of you I'll never be. Each night as I sleep, into my heart you creep. Wake up feeling sorry I met you, hoping that soon I'll forget you. When I look in the mirror to comb my hair, I see your face just a smiling there. Nowhere to run to, baby, nowhere to hide. Got nowhere to run to, baby, nowhere to hide. I know you're not good for me, but you become a part of me. How can I find a lover that shouldn't be in it so deep, deep inside of me? Well, it reaches so high, I can't get over it. So wide, I can't get around it, baby. Nowhere to run to, got nowhere to hide. Got nowhere to run to, baby, nowhere to hide. Got nowhere to run to, nowhere to hide, nowhere to hide. Got nowhere to run to, baby.
A phone call from a matron at a hospice just before Tina Harvey passed away, saying Tina wanted to say recording with me these songs was the best time of her life. Film of the week, The Teacher's Lounge. Actually, it technically came out last year and came second in the Best International Feature Film category. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. For me, it and American Fiction were the best films of the last 12 months. It's not really about teachers and pupils, it's about life in general and the world and what we go through. It also has actually, I think, the best ending of a film I've ever seen. It really is good. It's also, I like the fact it's in German with subtitles, the result being that my hearing aids were not that necessary, although I did of course have them on because I could read the subtitles. But it really is a terrific film, and it really does show you basically some of the problems that's going on with humanity at the moment and with society, things that have gone terribly, terribly wrong. One of the things that is really disturbing me in the post office scandal inquiry is how people are not looking at what is, for me, the real big problem. And that is, how can things that went wrong over 30 years ago not be examined in the way of how has the justice system not sorted this out 29 years ago or 28 years ago or 27 years ago? It's taken them forever. Now, the method of sorting these things out should have been somebody approached the CCRC after getting a conviction, and they immediately examined the conviction as to whether or not it was faulty, and found out that the Horizon system was to blame and not the individual person, and the conviction should have been quashed then and there. This didn't happen throughout the whole post office scandal, and is not happening now to all the many people who are wrongly convicted, and the huge amount of miscarriages of justice, ranging from murder to sexual crimes to forgery to fraud and to things like the post office scandal. Why aren't they looking at that? That is what's really wrong. Yes, people may have made mistakes in the early days. They may have assumed the Horizon system was fine, various bits and pieces that we're seeing now play out. But the main thing is, why wasn't this sorted by the system? A total failure of the judicial system, which is much broader and wider and longer and larger than just the post office. Friends came round in the week to celebrate the advent of spring with a couple of glasses of Pimm's, and made me think of one of the other tracks that we had on UK Record, which I thought was hilarious unintentionally. Noel Gordon, the brilliant Crossroads actress, recorded a track called To My Daughter, which I think should have been a huge hit because it's both funny and good.
The world stood still for me when you were born, and your first faint cry wakened the cold grey dawn. They laid you in my arms, so fragile and so small, and I marveled that this tiny soul could be alive at all. No lashes, nails, and oh so blue. Just 8 weeks early, yet this miracle was you. And even then your need for love just couldn't be denied, as you struggled for survival from the loneliness inside. My firstborn, how I made such plans for you. But then I find that dreams and plans so very rare come true. We've wept together, you and I, angry, bitter tears. Yet we've been such a comfort to each other through the years. I watched you tumble as a child and kissed your hurt away, and I wish with all my heart I could do the same for you today. But I could only stand by helpless, sharing your grief and pain, praying you'd have the courage and the will to start again. Your life's been like a jigsaw with the pieces all in bits, and you've groped around despairingly, wondering where your jigsaw fits. Then piece by piece and day by day, you built it all anew, till your picture is completed, and I'm so proud of you. I've always prayed you'd find yourself. The best is yet to be. And you've grown into the sort of person beautiful to see. I loved you from the moment that you made that first sweet cry, and I know I'll always love you and never question why.
Isn't that both camp and melodic and outrageous, full of cliches, sentimental? I did love Noel Gordon. She was a terrific actress, and I only wish they'd included this in the magnificent Russell T Davies TV show they did on her. When I was arrested in 2015 because of basically Surrey police thinking, hang on a moment, the Jimmy Savile thing went terribly wrong, which I don't think it did. I think they handled that very well. And we better get people paying attention to our successes. And they decided to prosecute me again. They ignored the fact that they had one successful prosecution in 2001, a miscarriage of justice and a wrongful conviction I'm still appealing against at the moment. But also they had many failures back then in the 2001 era. And they still launched the 2015 one, which culminated in a trial in 2018, at which I was acquitted, declared not guilty on several charges. The trial was not allowed to have a retrial because the judge saw all the evidence we had against the false accusers. By that point, I'd learned how to handle these things. But one of the things that amused me, and it's connected with the music I played you in the last episode from Sons of Admirals, was that they all got calls from Surrey police saying, did Mr. King ever try anything on with you? And were you ever feeling uncomfortable and all that sort of thing? To which, of course, they all answered, no, he's a wonderful guy and mainly responsible for our success. Thank you, please go away. But also, one of them had the good sense to actually record his conversation. And the police officer, very interesting, being very polite and very sensible and very legal all the way through, but throughout the conversation, which he quite accepted the fact that nothing had ever happened, he sort of implied that if the guy wanted to change his mind, he wouldn't have to have any costs because that could have been raised, or it'll have to take a couple of days' work to make a statement. No. The Surrey police will pay for anything, any costs you have, travel costs and so on and so forth, would cover anything that may come along, and sort of was hinted that, of course, there are large profits to be made, even if people have acquittals or failures of their false allegations. There are still huge profits and large sums to be made through civil cases, through blackmail and other things. And all of this was hinted at, though not, I have to say, ever actually expressed by this police officer, and we've got it all on tape. Another amusing incident with Surrey police in their attempt to convict me again in 2018 that I found that actually happened was at one point they were questioning me about photos I had on my phone and all that, all of which were perfectly fine, nice photos, and some of which were of a friend of mine I'd met in Italy. And they said, oh, you know, who is this person? I said, no, absolutely no concern to you. They've made no complaint or anything. They were older enough to be friends, and who cares anyway? Surrey police, who were absolutely getting nowhere finding people to make false allegations, because I'm glad to say the vast majority refused to do so, decided that one of the officers and his wife could fly out to Rome in Italy over the weekend to spend several days in a bed and breakfast near the Colosseum and actually find this person, this young man who was photographed on my phone, and see if he was willing to make a complaint against me. They did that, and indeed they did find him. They tracked him down and they asked him questions, and he answered quite honestly. He's a nice young man. I still know him very well. No, absolutely nothing. Jonathan's always been a complete gentleman. Yes, I know what his scene is. I'm not interested in doing anything, and he certainly isn't interested in doing anything with me. Hasn't forced me to do anything. Please fuck off. All in Italian, by the way. But what I found was very amusing was that the police had gone out there, a police officer and his wife, and had managed to get it all paid for by Surrey Police, or actually the taxpayer, which was a wonderful weekend off. And of course they thought nobody would find out about this. I found out about it because I tracked down the Facebook page of the wife. The officer had been bright enough not to leave anything online, but the wife was going on at length about a wonderful weekend they'd had in Rome and all the rest of it, where the B&B was and everything else. And I thought, cunts. Donald Trump. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I can't stand the man and I'm against most of his policies. But I have to say this criminal trial is absolutely ridiculous. It doesn't boil down to whether or not he paid hush money to this awful woman. It doesn't boil down to whether or not he and she had sex. It's nothing to do with any of that. All it is to do with is, did the money he paid her to keep her mouth shut? Quite intelligent thing to do, one would think, in many ways. Also done by people like Prince Andrew, Michael Jackson and so on. If they can afford to do it, why not pay the blackmailer off? But did he spend the money out of an account that should have actually been declared for, I don't know, presidential run or election protest or whatever? Or did he make a mistake and instead of what he should have done, spent paying her out of his personal bank account or one of his company bank accounts, he paid it out of a campaign bank account? It is so fucking stupid. And why shouldn't he anyway? And it's so trivial, and it's so guaranteed to make all of those on the fence who aren't really too keen on either Biden or Trump go, well, you know what? I'm going to vote for Trump simply because he is the victim of people using the law to break the law. Dear England, I'm really not a big fan of football, and I'm not that interested in football stage plays or films, but I'm a huge fan of James Graham, who wrote this stage play. James Graham wrote the original quiz show on stage, which was fantastic, and was also based on my friend Bob Woffington's book. I went to see Dear England in the cinema, at the View Cinema, in fact, which was fascinating. Actually, much better for me than watching it on stage, because the sound and the vision were brilliant. The guy who played Gareth Southgate was fantastic and deserved awards. All in all, a thoroughly good show, very recommended on cinema screen. Well, that's it for A Victim Bites Back, episode 77. My God, they're relentless. They're endless. See you for A Victim Bites Back, episode 78. Inshallah.